Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for another AppScan Tuesday session. Today, this is episode number 33, and I have a guest with me that was in episode 8. You can go back and check his video here, where Shahar came and explained to us about how to use user-defined tests with AppScan Standard. Today, Shahar will come to the show to talk about how to up your game with AppScan on Cloud APIs. Hi, Shahar.
Hello, Eitan. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Hanukkah. This we are recording
Uh,
it ahead. Yeah, we are recording ahead of time, but this will go out at candle number 5. I don't know how you say it in English. You probably say it better. So
yeah, so happy Hanukkah. I hope you're lighting all the candles in the right
yeah,
order.
it's a bit struggling with the jelly donuts this year. I need to find where to get the good ones, but definitely.
Any fried food will do it, right? It's not
Yeah.
doesn't have to be donuts.
Well, yesterday we went to Dunkin' Donuts to get some, but yeah. So, uh, we were talking about what to discuss today. We had a few different topics, and we landed on ASOC API, the AppScan on Cloud API. You
Yeah.
and I are working on open sourcing and having a community that can contribute and use, integrations that others are building, and hopefully we will share some news about it in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, we want to show them how to use the APIs and how to use our great Swagger. And you
Yeah.
have some experience, so let us know, talk a little bit about things that you are doing and things that you're doing for the internal HCL usage of it, maybe, and other customers.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't realize the strength of the APIs. You know me, I like history. And ASOC was originally developed in an API-driven sort of method.
Mm-hmm.
So the team, um, to this day, everything that's being developed is API first, UI second.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 99.8 of the things you can do in the UI, you can do with the APIs. But what's exposed with the APIs is only a fraction of it is actually used in the UI.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more strength in using the APIs and automating with the APIs. This goes across functionalities, whether it's administrative, right, user management,
Yep.
asset groups, creating applications, deleting applications, monitoring scans, executing scans, of course, generating reports, even defining hooks. Um, is something that's done using the APIs, and everything can be, of course, automated.
And I
So
think, by the way, a few weeks ago, Cody showed something regarding the user management and how we integrated with GitHub, and he did it with the APIs, as you're
yeah,
explaining. You can't do it in the UI because connecting ASOC to your GitHub from the public cloud, it needs to be from the internal side, right? So he showed really cool way on how to do that.
yeah, and that's and integrations. You mentioned integrations, but integration into your defect tracking systems,
Yeah.
or if you have another tool to view vulnerabilities, application status, manage your organizational security posture, all of that, that's all integrated using the APIs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of information, and sometimes it can be too much information um, if you're just looking for one or two things, and I'll be able to show at least on some occasions where you can focus
Mm-hmm.
the information that you're looking for. Um, but the important thing is that all these APIs are available. And as you mentioned, we're working on a project which we're hoping to open source. We will open source one way or another. But provide an infrastructure, because sometimes approaching the API is actually writing the code um, for working with ASOC is not trivial, right? It's not very complicated, but you have to know what you're doing from creating HTTP requests, for example, if you're not familiar
Yeah.
with the tools to do that in your language of choice, whatever you decided to write your integration with. That can be a preliminary challenge, but after that, everything sort of flows. And we'll provide that infrastructure and a lot of examples, and hopefully people can take it from there, adapt it to their particular needs.
Yeah, and some of them are already available, like what you mentioned, what we have, the AppScan issue gateway, where people can integrate with external, whether it's defect tracking systems or others. I'll include link below on how people can get to that open source project in the meantime until we have our bigger story that we're working on.
Yeah, there's other things, by the way. There's the AppScan issue gateway, which is another sort of package of functions that's designed more for command line executions, prepared command line executions. What we're going to do next is provide samples, right? Small logical pieces that people can piece together, but also learn from. That's the important thing, not to take what we publish and just use it.
Yeah.
It'll be impossible to cover all the possible scenarios, but hopefully to teach people.
And like any other group of development organizations, the Jira that you're using is not the Jira that someone else is using. The way that you use Jenkins, the way that you use whatever will be different. Your requirements will be different. You're working with, being our lead architect, you're working with the biggest and baddest customers that we have, and each one has a different flavor, let's say, or a different setting, and they need
they have
their own.
customizations, right?
Yeah.
They have customizations to their workflow that, if you're doing a very specific type of integration, like the issue gateway, you have to feed it a lot of configuration to work. But if you want, you can take the code. It's all open source. You can take the code, adapt it to your need, compile and run it, and then lock that configuration and specific, again, adaptation to your needs.
So let's jump into some actual demos.
Some show and tell.
Yeah.
And I'll be sharing my screen. Okay, so when you're already in a SOC and you've logged in, and here I have some sample application, you can go over here to plugins and APIs, which I think was presented before. And the advantage of going this way, when I go to my Swagger documentation, you'll see up here there's an API key. That gets fed in. The access token, it gets fed in automatically. So when you're already logged in, you don't have to worry about actually logging into the APIs using our account APIs. Very simple to do that. You go here, and then you just fit in your API key and key ID and secret, and you're logged in. But it's more convenient to just log into a SOC. As you can see, there's a lot of groups, types of APIs, very rich offerings. Again, from user management, and you can play with any of these APIs right here. Let's just try this out, and we see that this particular organization has 42 users, and so on and so forth. Application baskets, and you can actually play with this API, this playground, and just to show you, let's say you want to start a basic dynamic scan. The structure is very similar to a lot of other Swagger documentations, if you're familiar with them. And even if you're not, it's not that important. Let's try creating a scan. You'll see the response information that you get, and over here you'll see the information that's required to start a scan. There's an example value, and if you click on that, it will populate the actual actual attributes or properties that you can upload, the parameters. If you click on the model, you'll see more specific things. And the important things to notice that some of those are optional. So don't worry if you're not familiar immediately with what everything means. If it's optional, you can skip it. So if I wanted to start a scan, I can very simply do this.
Point to our
I
demo
add
site.
add my starting URL. This is our sample user that everyone can use to play with the test fire. And then I get to a test policy. I'm not sure what that means. Extra field, I'm also not sure what it means, but probably, if I don't know what it means, I probably don't need it. So if I look over here, I see that those are optional. So I'm just going to delete them. I don't need them. Scan type, there's a default, so it's optional, but you can see here it's production or custom and so on and so forth. Verified domains, I don't know what that is. I don't have any HTTP, I can delete those. Show me only full results, sure. Test optimization, I don't have a login sequence. I will give a name, or give 8 times demo scan. I don't want to get notified by email. My locale, I wanted to execute. You don't want it to be a personal scan and so on. The important thing is the app ID. And this is where things get ever so slightly more complicated. You do need to provide a valid API, valid application ID. So we'll just pick that right from there. I'm in my application that I want to work with. And I'll just plug it right there. So this is how easy it is. I click try it out. I get the response. We can see here all the information there is about the scan I just created, the response code and so on. But if I go to my actual to the actual application, I see there it is. The scan has already started. And then we can do other things. Once you have the ID of the scan, I can take that and I can try to see the status, get the details, get a detailed status of the scan, or I can get sort of a more basic. This call gives me a more basic group of information about the scan. There it is. I can see its progress and so on and so forth.
It's a lot of information, and I guess people will, to be fair, they won't even know what to look for, but it's a nice way to explore it.
Right, exactly. And this is the reason we are creating sort of the samples. Now, to take this towards actually writing automation scripts, things like that, then it's very, very simple. So this is the project that we plan, or a part of the project that we plan to release. And I'm using a service that will be available. So a lot of the authentication and renewing of the keys, all of that is taken care of. There's something that wraps the actual interaction with ASOC. So if we go here, and we just take this, and this will be the model that I want to send. This is the information that I want to send. There's a few things I have to correct because this is Python, not this is the word JavaScript. So I just do this. This time I'll call it something a little different. And I have a response, and just post. And again, this this code actually takes care of most things. So we'll just copy the API that is needed. I just need this. The rest will be taken care of. And then we're using requests, Python requests underneath. So I just set my model. And that's it. I run my script. And it should run fairly quickly. Hopefully there'll be no errors. Which there might be if I'm doing this online. Here it is. It's finished with no exceptions at least. And if we go back to our application on ASOC, and you can see it right there. Here it is. So this is how simple it was to actually create a scan. Obviously, if you're trying to do something that's a little more involved, it gets a little more complicated, but not a whole lot. And there's a lot
more interesting, not more complicated.
Okay.
By the way, this is end of year, and I don't expect people to rush into doing those things. But if you are interested, and we don't have what Shahar and I mentioned already, we don't have it published, reach out to us. I'll include Shahar's LinkedIn below. Also, if you want to reach out to him and you don't have his email, but in the next few weeks, we should have something publicly available for you to work with.
Yes, hopefully it'll be a seed for you to automate and get the most out of ASOC.
And to collaborate, because we know that some of you are working on your own integrations, and sharing it with others would be great. So that's part of the project that we're working on, to make sure that people can contribute their own integration, collaborate with other customers or other AppScan users, and hopefully help each other.
Yes.
Thanks, Shahar. This looks really, really interesting, and I know that samples are the best documentations people can ask for. So that's the approach. It's not about the online documentation, not even about videos. People like samples. Being ex-developer,
yes.
And I will say ex-developer, not anymore. Sample is where I learned from. So.
Yeah. Well, this is why I'm doing this project, to try to keep my development shape. I don't get to do a lot of development either these days.
Yeah, well, you chose to be architect. You chose to be in the ivory tower there, so it has. Thanks, Shahar, and again, happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Eitan, for having me.
And again, happy Hanukkah, and we're in December, so I won't get you again this year on the show, but definitely next year.
I'll be happy to come back.
Bye-bye, Shahar.
Bye-bye.